Welcome to the screencast for the React Quickly book. This is the chapter 10, and I'll walk you through the example of the Nile bookstore. So I'm CDing into Nile bookstore. As you can see, this is the folder structure. I have app.jsx, bootstrap CSS, bundle.js. Bundle.js will be my compiled file. Then I have images. Index.html would be the entry point for project. Node_module will contain the dependencies. And package.json have the metadata. And finally, webpack.config.js. That's the configuration for the Webpack build tool. So let me show you how the end result looks like. I'm launching a static node server. I'm going to localhost port 8080. We are at the home page. This is the storefront. As you can see, there are 5 books written by me. You can click on any one of them, and there would be a buy button, which will add this item to the cart. You can go back, you can click again. And if you notice, this model, the URL for this model, it's /product/3. So 3 is the ID for this book. Now we have to React Quickly books. So let's add my new book, full stack JavaScript, as well. Let's add one more. So now the URL is /product/4. And the URL has this bank side. This is the way, basically, how most single applications works, Angular, Ember, and React Router. And then you have this query string, which is support for all browsers to handle the state. So now from the cart, what you can do, you can go to the checkout, and it will show the print-ready receipt or invoice for our payment, total number of 4 books. We can add price here as well. Then if we click back button, go back to the cart, I can go back to the home. So what's interesting, let me open this first book, ProExpress.js, and copy this URL, open a new window and paste this URL. So this URL will open not in a model, but in a completely separate screen. So it's exactly the same URL, but because we came to this URL from the home page, it has this homepage context as a background, and this does not have it. Think about it. If you share this link if you send it to a friend or a colleague, you don't really want them or need even to be able to see where you were browsing, maybe it's a search result, and from the search results you clicked on that model. So we show model when we have the context, but then we don't have the context, we don't have the previous screen. We show a separate page. This is how Pinterest works. So we can also click buy from here and then go to checkout. Obviously this would be a new session, and we don't have the data because we don't persist it. Let's start with the Webpack config file. Webpack is similar to Gulp, but it's different because it has some extra features that Gulp doesn't have. So the way we configure our Webpack, we export the object, the configuration object, using module.exports. This is a standard Node.js and CommonJS notation. The entry file is where the source code is. So in our case, it's app.jsx. The output is where the destination for the compiled resources, for the bundled resources, should be. And __ dir name, it's the current dir name. So we would want the output to be in a bundle.js. And then in the module, we have loaders. We want to convert JSX, but we want to exclude node modules because there are a lot of dependencies. We don't want to go over them. They're already ready to use in most of the cases, and same with the for the Bower component. Even we don't use Bower, just showing you. And the loader's name is Babel. So Babel, it's a tool that will allow us to convert JSX and ES6. In this project, we'll be using a lot of ES6 features. So that's it. Can save this file and move on to the next one. This is package.json. It's metadata for our project. I'm not going to type it with you. I just want to point out 3 important places. First place, it's scripts. This is where I define the Webpack scripts. They're quite lengthy because I'm not using global Webpack, I'm using local Webpack. So I'm pointing to node modules /webpack/bin, and I'm using Node.js. So think about Webpack as just a Node.js module, and I'm launching it with the node command. Same thing for the Webpack dev server. Dev server, as you can guess from the name, it's a development server based on the Webpack and designed to work with Webpack. We can use that, or we can manually build and then use any other web server. Second place is dependencies. Again, I'm breaking them down into 2, regular dependencies and dev dependencies. So typically you don't want your compilers, transformers, your build tools to be in dependencies, because with having dependencies and dev dependencies, you can separate and only deploy to production dependencies by using --production flag when you do npm install. And then the third interesting place is this property Babel. This property, it's not specific to Node.js, it's specific to Babel. Without it, Babel would not do anything. This is version number 6. You can see it here, 6.3.21. So they changed it in version 5. Babel would do, by default, it would transform ES6 to ES5 scripts, and it would also do JSX. Right now it's not doing anything, so we need this plugin for the JSX, and we need these presets for ES6. And then ignore, we don't really need it, but I just wanted to show you that you can also put some folders and files into ignore. The last thing, we're using React DOM 14.3 and React 14.3, 0.14.3. This is important. Use this exactly the same versions. Now let's move on to index.html. It's a very small file. All we have here is the div with ID content and script including bundle.js. So bundle.js, I've already said, I'm going to repeat it again, it's the compiled file. This is how it looks like once I compiled it from the JSX source. Then the Bootstrap CSS, I'm using version 3.3.5. In the images, I have images of the book covers. So we are left with one last file. It's app.jsx. Let's implement it next.